Marysville. Welcome to Charger Chat. We're here with Officer Derek Oates of the Marysville Police Canine Department. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
So we have several questions for you today. Just to start off really briefly, when did you become a police officer?
Actually, October of 2001.
And do you know why? Or did you have a calling for it?
Well, I think you kind of have to have a calling to become a police officer. So yeah, it's something actually I've always wanted to do my whole life. So, and I went to college, and then after college, got a job outside of not in law enforcement, and then started working towards a law enforcement career, and then finally was able to get hired at Marysville.
So, to talk about canine for a few minutes
Okay.
here, are you directly involved with the training of the dogs?
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Do they live with you?
Live
off
at
the
home
job?
with us. Yep. So once we buy the dogs are, for all intents and purposes, my dog. Obviously, it's a city piece of equipment. But yeah, the dogs live with us at home, and we do all of our training in house. We train with multiple other agencies as well, but we do all the initial training just ourselves. But
Are there any breeds that are more inclined to be selected, or can anything like a Chihuahua or a Corgi become a police dog?
So there's a couple different types of dogs as far as their job that they do. So that would kind of dictate what kind of dog you're going to get. If it's a patrol dog, so ones that the user knows to track bad guys, or you're going to probably have to have a dog that is going to be have a little bit more the desire to fight. And so typically we use German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, or Dutch Shepherds are typically going to be kind of the three breeds of dogs that we're going to use for that type of work. Narcotics work, if your dogs are just looking for drugs, we literally can take any dog and train it to do that. Now there's going to be two types of dogs, or two different kind of styles of dogs that we're going to use for like narcotics. A pug would not be a very good narcotics dog because they have a really short nose. And so the dog's ability to smell depends on how big their nose are. So the bigger the dog's nose are, the better that they can smell, the better that they can, find the illegal substances. So typically you won't find a pug or anything like that ever doing police work. But you can find, like beagles doing it, labs, golden retrievers. I mean, any type of dog that has a long snout will be able to do any type of police work.
So they obviously go through training before
Yes.
they become police
Yep.
dogs. What kind of training do they go through too?
So we have to teach these dogs basically everything that they can possibly be exposed to on the street. If it's a patrol dog, they're specifically trained in kind of 5 areas: control work, obedience, area search, building search, and handler protection. Each one, you want me to explain each one of those, what that kind of is, or details? So obviously, obedience is pretty obvious: sit, stay, heel, right? The dogs have to be completely obedient to us at all times. So we'll just ask our dogs to whatever they do, and they have to listen to us 100% of the time. Control work is the dog it's not on lead. The dog, I have complete control over the dog all the time. So if the dog is 100 yards away from me and I tell the dog to do something, the dog has to listen to me. So if the dog is, let's say we're doing training scenarios and the dog is biting a bite sleeve, the dog has to listen to me when I tell the dog to spit the sleeve out and recall to me, come back to me. The dog has to be compliant on that and listen to me. So that's obedience and control work. An area search would be if you have a big fenced area, so a big commercial area that's completely fenced. If there's somebody hiding inside that area, our dogs have to learn how to go find that person inside. Tracking, if it's a patrol dog, and if they're a tracking dog, we have to teach the dogs how to find the human scent, and then be able to track the person no matter where they go. They have to be able to track them. So whether they're on hard surfaces, grass, doesn't matter, inside buildings, wherever, the dogs will be able to actually track that human scent to where the bad guy's hiding. Building searches, pretty obvious. If somebody's hiding in a building, our dogs can find them. So we just have to teach all of those different kind of environments, and then also those different kind of skill sets to be able to do for the dogs to be able to do their jobs.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
How long have you been working with your dog?
Well, I'm on my second dog right now. So I got my first dog. His name was Ranger. I got him in February of 2008. And he just retired in September of last year, so September 6th of 2016. I got my new dog, Canine Copper. I got him mid of September, and we've actually just completed our training. I think 2 weeks ago, we just finally completed our training. So we've been training our dogs. We have 2 brand new dogs for the city. We just finished training our dogs. We started that process in mid-September when we got the 2 new dogs. Just finished it 2 weeks ago.
Wow, so training dogs takes a long time.
Yeah, yep.
What happens to these dogs when they retire? Do they live with their families, or?
Yep. So my former dog ranger, yeah, he just retired and now lives at my house and just is living that retirement life as a dog. So just running around like a normal dog.
So you've obviously worked with dogs for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your scariest moment, and what has been your proudest moment working with them?
Scariest moment? Well, there's a lot of those. I mean, police work is kind of a scary thing. Probably the one is really kind of like the scary stuff is always the unknown. You just never know about stuff. But one I'm thinking in particular was early on in Ranger and I's career, we were tracking a domestic violence suspect who fled, and he had a gun that he was carrying. And so we're chasing this guy because he just beat up his spouse pretty bad, and he also fled with a gun. So we're chasing him. And at the time we had a helicopter that was flying around, helping us fly around, and Canine Ranger was tracking this guy, and fortunately the helicopter was flying up above us and actually stopped us. And because we were tracking this guy right around, we would have tracked this guy right around a corner where he was standing with a shotgun waiting for us. So the helicopter fortunately stopped us from going around the corner, and who knows what would happen when we went around the corner. So that was probably the scariest moment, but I didn't know it at the time. It was kind of one of those, the helicopter just told us to stop. We did, and then now we know why. Proudest moments, I tell you, it's every time the dog, in the dog world, it's every time the dog finds the bad person, the person who committed the crime. That's just kind of one of those, that's pretty cool. So a lot of those.
If you weren't in canine working with these dogs, what would you be doing?
I actually probably a teacher. I love teaching. I'm one of our instructors for our firearms department, and I enjoy teaching. So probably I'd like to be a teacher.
Okay. Well, right now we have a segment about do you travel? So we're gonna play that.
Everybody travels. That's fun. Everybody travels. Do you travel?
I've been to London.
Yes.
I've been to Paris.
Yes.
I've been pretty much all across the states.
Yes.
Go to South Dakota every summer. Go lots of places. It's really fun.
Do I travel? I mean, I went to Oregon once for 3 hours. No. Do I travel? I mean, ever since I met you, yeah, I do travel.
Welcome back. So to continue on talking about the police dogs, when they're not on duty, because they obviously have to sleep sometime,
Right.
what do you and your dog do for fun?
We actually like to go backpacking and hiking. As my family, that's things that we like to do. So we'll bring our dogs with us to go do hiking and backpacking.
Well, I'm sure that's quite fun for the dog to get out and go run through nature and not necessarily chasing somebody.
Right.
do your dogs, you teach them to you order them around, heel, stay, sit, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Do you guys ever play games, play fetch with the dog type thing?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. I mean, that's just a bond building between me and the dog every time we play with them. So we play a lot of fetch.
Is bond building important between an officer and the dog?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest things that we have to have that really tight bond between the dog and the handler. I have to trust the dog completely that the dog's going to do everything, and the dog has to trust me that I'm doing everything correct too. So.
Now, dogs are great for police work,
Mhm.
obviously, with their great senses and stuff like that. But, just fun question, what other animals do you think could do police work?
Well, I know horses. They use horses in police work.
Yeah, they have horses.
I don't know. I honestly have never thought of that question. It's a good question. I don't know. So I know obviously dogs are great, but I don't know what other type of animals would be efficient in this line of work. So.
Well, if other animals wouldn't necessarily be as effective at it, what makes dogs, aside from their keen sense of smell, so effective at it?
I think just their compliance. They're just their bond with humans. I mean, dogs are man's best friend, right? So they love doing what they do. They love coming to the work. The dog gets really excited every time I get the patrol car started. Dog's really excited every time to come to work. So they love doing this stuff. For them, it's just a big game. We don't train our dogs to be mean. We train our dogs to have fun. It's like the best games in the world for them. So.
What's the hardest job a police dog has to do?
Well, our dogs are not trained for it, but there are cadaver dogs, so dogs that are meant to find dead bodies. I would think that is probably the most difficult thing for the dogs to do. The Oso landslide, they've brought in numerous dogs from all over the country that were brought here to try to help recover the bodies from that. And I know that they had to cycle the dogs out just because the dogs' emotions. They had to, get the dogs breaks quite often just because of that. So, our police dogs, aren't necessarily are experienced in that type of realm. Everything that we do is the dogs just love doing it because it's a fun game.
Well, I'm sure the dogs do have fun with all the running around and stuff. When you are training them, are there any specific training exercises you do with them, or is it more just obedience training where you reward them for doing stuff well and discipline them for doing things poorly?
Well, we actually don't really discipline our dogs. We do, it's a positive training, so it's like clicker training. So we reward the dog for doing stuff right all the time, and they don't really necessarily get punishment for doing anything bad. They just know when they do right, they get petted on the head, or they get a little treat or something like that. But yeah, training aids, yes, everything that we do involves training aids. So like if we're teaching our dogs to go track somebody, we have to have somebody to track. So we'll use other officers as our quote unquote our bad guys, and we'll send them off and tell them to go run somewhere and hide, and then we'll send our dogs after them, and then we'll use them. So that's a tool that we use, another officer, another human, as a training tool. Our dogs are also trained in narcotics, so we use narcotics, so heroin, meth, and cocaine. We use those as training aids, so we'll go hide them in a building, in a car, in an open area, and we'll send our dogs out to go find those articles of evidence. So we use real drugs. We have real drugs that we use as training aids all the time to go do stuff. So we use a lot of stuff as our training aids.
Do you use you use live people, obviously?
Yeah.
But when you're doing scenarios with finding people or finding narcotics, how often do the dogs fail at that? Are they fallible, or are they usually pretty 100% accurate?
Narcotics-wise, they're 100%. And they have to be for our certification. They have to be, to meet the standard, they have to be 100% every single time. So our dogs don't fail in narcotics. On the human side of stuff, training the dogs never fail in the tracking stuff. If they do, it's because of the handler, not because of the dog. So it's a team element, right? And if the dog is out doing a dog track And if I, as the dog handler, if I'm holding the dog lead, and if I pull the dog and I stop him, the dog might be like, oh, he doesn't want me to track that person anymore, so I'll go follow this cat. So there's sometimes in tracking stuff where our dogs potentially have the chance of failing at it, but it's usually because of the handler input and the handler mistake, not because the dog made a mistake. But in our training scenarios, we try to always set our dogs up to always succeed, because in real life, when we do dog tracks and when we're chasing some of the bad guys, we don't know where they fled. We don't know where they run. That's why we're using a dog to try to find them. And then sometimes the bad guys get picked up in cars, or they're able to get away from us. So in real life, the dogs are not always successful in capturing people. It's just it would be what we would consider an unknown. Our dog tracked somewhere, just didn't find the person. We don't know why.
Interesting. So when you and your dogs are out on the trail, and you obviously have to work teamwork to find everybody, are there like specific like pointers and stuff like that your dog does to indicate that they're tracking somebody, or is it more of a they start running in a direction, you follow them as best as you can?
Yes, on both. Our dogs are definitely going to take off, and they're going to and they don't necessarily like sprinting, running, but they're certainly pulling really hard. They're tracking. We use our dogs on lead, so that means that they're on a long leash. Our leashes are like 30 feet long, and our dogs are out in front of us quite a ways. And yeah, the communication between our dogs is really important. So if our dog, as we're tracking, if all of a sudden if our dog looks just to the right really subtly, I have to remember that the dog looked to the right because maybe the dog track goes that way. Or we're following a human scent, and how the scent works is it doesn't necessarily just immediately fall to the ground. The scent might be flying in the air for a little bit, and so it could be a little bit off of the dog track, if this makes sense. And so I have to pay attention. So the dog may miss a turn initially, and because he's following wherever the scent is flowing, he might miss that turn, but then the dog will come, and I have to remember where the dog turned his head, and we have to go back to that location, then the dog will take off on the track again. So yeah, the dog gets all these little cues, how he twitches his head, what he does with his tail, what he does with his nose, which way he's looking. All of those little things are little cues and little pieces of that information that I have to pay attention to while we're running behind this dog.
Well, I'm sure you have to be very confident in your dogs and their abilities. And speaking of confidence, this is a segment about a narcissist.
Hey, look, I'm really stressed out about finals right now. Hey, we should go out sometime. Yeah, that's great. We totally should. Yeah. Hi, Peyton. So glad you're here. So glad we get to talk right now. Peyton, we've been friends for so long. It's so great. I'm so glad that we're so, close. I mean, I feel like you appreciate me as a human, which I know most people do, but that's just so great. And I'm so glad. Thank you. I know I am just the best human you could be around right now. And you're welcome for my presence on this earth. So thank you for saying that, yeah. I'm the best.
Welcome back. Now, we were talking before the break about how you communicate with your dogs when they're on the hunt, as it were. So, I have a dog, and she's a wonderful border collie. She's 9 years old. Could she become a police dog?
You said 9 years old?
Yeah.
Well, any dog that has that long nose can potentially become a police dog. I guess it's just how many hours you want to put into it. I would say as a patrol dog, somebody who's probably is a tracking dog, probably not. But as a narcotics dog, your dog would definitely have the abilities or the potential abilities to be able to do that. It's just how much time do you want to put into it.
At what age do you usually start training dogs for to be a canine dog?
So we typically buy our dogs, are about a year and a half old. And then, so when we just purchased our dogs in September, Copper was, I think, 15 months old, and Steel was, I think, 18 months old. And so we try to, at least a year and a half old, that's where we're trying to, or close to a year and a half old, where we're trying to get our dogs age-wise. One is that's just developmentally, physically, for them, they're at the age where we're not going to hurt them anymore. And so, by having them jump off things, so we're not going to hurt them. So mentally and physically, they're ready to be able to handle the stresses of doing our job.
How long do you keep them working for?
What really comes down to the service life of the dog, and then how difficult it was for them. My first dog, Ranger, early on in his career, actually tore an ACL in his right leg, rear leg. And so that kind of, said he's probably going to have some problems later on in his life, maybe with some arthritis or something. And so it all depends on, how difficult that was. So Ranger, he retired when he was about 10 years old. That's probably about the higher end as far as the age that we'd ever really like to push the dog. But his knee never bothered him towards the end of his career. It really wasn't an issue. It's still not an issue. So he was fine with that. So I would say probably anywhere from 8 to 10 years is probably about the average service life of a dog. We like to retire dogs a little bit earlier just because we don't want to wreck our dogs for retirement. We want our dogs to kind of retire to be healthy and happy dogs for the service that they provided us.
After the dogs retire, do they stay with you?
Yep, so live at home and just become a family dog after that. So, yep.
What are the kind of health dangers that these dogs run into out doing everything?
Well, if on the patrol side, it's the people we encounter. So somebody could harm the dog that way. So whether it be just by fighting, stabbing, shooting, something like that. On the narcotic side, it's just if they come across any narcotics, if they ingest it, inhale it, that could be really severely, potentially fatal for the dogs on that. So we always have to be very careful of how we deploy our dogs, where we deploy our dogs, where we allow our dogs to go. So we're not going to send them into a place where that's just like there's needles everywhere. I'm just not going to put my dog in a situation like that. Or I'm not going to put, if I'm searching a car, if I see drugs that are just wide open in the car, I'm not going to send my dog inside of there just to go search in there. I don't want to hurt my dog that way. So we really try to minimize the things that we can, that our dogs can get hurt with. But sometimes, if we're chasing somebody, we just never know who we're chasing. So.
When you first got into law enforcement, did you start off in the canine unit, or did you start off as just a regular police officer?
I was just a regular patrol officer when I first started. And that's the way, typically in our agency for Marysville, everybody starts as a patrol officer. You kind of got to learn what you're doing before you become into a specialty. So I started in 2001, and then as soon as I graduated from the police academy and off of my training, then I started volunteering as one of our bad guys for our dogs. So every Wednesday night we have canine training. And so I won't say it was every Wednesday night, but most Wednesday nights I was one of our bad guys running away from our dogs at the time and hiding from them. So I had a lot of experience. Something I wanted to do in law enforcement was work a dog. So I put my time in as kind of our bad guys, running from the dogs first.
So, you as a police officer spent that time being a regular police officer. What did you do in terms of policing before you were with dogs?
Well, the patrol world is just everything. You handle every call. So a 911 call comes out and you just respond to that. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it be burglaries, any type of property crimes, assaults, you name it. So.
When you're working with your dogs, are there any, when they radio in for you to go do something, do they say specifically with a dog, or do you ever work, alone without your dog?
Oh no, I'm still a patrol officer, so we'll still respond to other calls, and still help out with patrol calls. So I'm still a patrol cop. I mean, that's what I do. I just have the added advantage of also having a dog with me. I would say most of the time, if somebody's calling me specifically, they're calling for the dog. So if another patrol person is responding to a burglar, they say, hey, can you send a canine this way? And so we'll respond to those type of calls, just in case the dog's needed.
What criteria in situations would you say best fits a dog entering the crime scene?
Well, it's going to be mostly felony type crimes. So burglaries, robberies, major assaults, and then also some domestic violence cases. And then that's on the patrol side. On the narcotics side, it's basically if a patrol officer stops a vehicle and there's drugs in the car, nexus to the drugs in the car. So whether people had prior drug histories and there's kind of some evidence, some drug paraphernalia that's visible and stuff, then they'll call for a narcotics dog. So then we respond to be able to go to those things. So we respond just a vast amount of different types of calls, and people will call us for all sorts of things. So.
Well, when you are working with the dogs on narcotics, what's kind of your standard procedure to going into a narcotics bust?
So if a patrol officer makes a traffic stop on a vehicle, and then during their little investigation, they see that people have prior history, narcotics history, so they've been arrested for it before, and then there's some evidence of drugs in the car that they can kind of see. There has to be what we call a nexus to the crime of a narcotics. Once they've established some of those things, then they'll call for a narcotics dog to go up and do a sniff on a vehicle.
Have you ever had to respond or go to a school and do a narcotics test or finding mission?
I have not yet. My previous dog was a single-purpose dog. He was just a patrol dog. My current dog is what's considered a dual-purpose dog, so a patrol dog and a narcotics dog. So I'm kind of new in the whole narcotics world. So I've literally had 2 deployments, narcotics-wise, since we've been certified. So only 2.
Well, that looks like we're going to be wrapping up our show. Thank you for coming out here and answering all our questions.
Of course, thank you.
Is it on? Alright, welcome back to P Squad Paranormal Investigations. Today, we're in Marysville High School. They said it's been abandoned for 20 years. You can see the mold on the walls. Hear that? The footsteps echo through the halls. It's the only sound you can hear. We're going to be going over to that classroom over there, Chapin's room. They say hundreds of students drowned in that room when a huge wave came crashing through. It only affected that room. It's known as a hotbed for paranormal activity. Is it on?
Yeah.
We've been in the ghost room for a few hours now. It's pitch black outside. We haven't heard any ghost activity yet, but luckily we have something to enhance that. Most ghost shows will use what we call EVP to detect their ghosts, but those have a very low chance of success. What we use is something a little more scientific, a little more proven to work, called EDM. It'll draw the ghosts right out with a 98% chance of happening. Come on out, ghosts! You know you can't resist these sick beats! Alright, we've been playing the music for a few hours now to no avail. We're still holding out hope. Some ghosts take a little longer than others to appear.
Excuse me, are you supposed to be
Get out.
in here?
Get out.
Do you have a visitor pass or
No,
something?
get out. Did you guys see that? That was a Class 5 apparition level ghost. He showed himself to us. This is unprecedented.
Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you
No,
to
no.
pass the security are here.
Get Leave.
Sir,
Leave.
sir.
Get out. Get out of
Do
here.
you have a license
No,
to be
no,
here?
get out.
Okay.
Two times. This is unprecedented. I've never seen this in any ghost situation before. This is the first time in my life. I'm sweating. This is amazing. This is completely new to me. It's the daylight hour right now. Never thought I'd see it again after seeing that Class 5 ghost. It seems our lockdown here is over. The tragedy that happened all those years ago never be averted. But I'm hoping today we manage to calm some ghosts and send them back to their final resting place. See you next time. Or Peace Squad!